Hey everyone, and welcome back to Horror Movies for Life YouTube channel. And in today's video, we're going to take a look at a 1982 horror movie. Well, relatively speaking, a 1982 thriller movie, which I don't have the physical media for. I streamed it on YouTube, and that movie is The Clairvoyant, which is also known as The Killing Hour. So yeah, let's just talk about The Clairvoyant from 1982. So, The Clairvoyant is a 1982 American psychological horror film directed by Armand Mastorani and starring Perry King, Norman Parker, and Elizabeth Kemp. The plot follows a New York City detective and his friend who pursue a mysterious handcuffed killer with the aid of an artist who sees and draws the killer's crimes before they are committed. The film was originally acquired for distribution by 20th Century Fox, who released it directly to video in 1985 under the alternative title, The Killing Hour. So, after the body of a murdered woman, Elizabeth Mercer, is found nude and handcuffed, floating down the Hudson River in New York City, two men are murdered by an assailant who handcuffed them before killing them. Paul Mac McCormick, an ambitious TV talk show host, and Larry Weeks, a police detective and aspiring stand-up comedian, team up to try to locate the killer. Meanwhile, Verna Nightborn, a student at the Art Students League of New York, has been completing portraits which coincidentally appear to depict the crimes. Her roommate, Meryl, a nurse, has noticed the phenomenon. Verna is unable to explain where her impulse to draw them come from. Verna eventually draws a portrait of herself as one of the killer's victims and has a nightmare about a woman being handcuffed to a bed. Frightened, she decides to go to the police with her drawings. When pressed as to how she comes to make the drawings, Verna explains that it is unconscious and that she has the precognitive, and clairvoyant abilities since her childhood. She recounts a specific incident in which she helped save a missing girl, Elizabeth, from her hometown. Verna is horrified when police inform her that the woman found dead in the river was in fact the same Elizabeth from Verna's childhood, who as an adult worked as a bartender at a BDSM leather bar. So yeah, that's a mouthful. But that's the setup, the premise, the beginning of The Clairvoyant from 1982. As far as the cast goes, we have Perry King as Paul Mac McCormick, Elizabeth Kemp as Verna Nightborn, Norman Parker as Detective Larry Weeks, Kenneth McMillan as Detective Cullum, John Polito as Detective Sparaco, Joe Morton as Detective Rich, and Barbara Quinn as Meryl Watson. So yeah, that's to set up the premise and the cast for the 1982 American psychological horror, The Clairvoyant. I would say psychological thriller, crime thriller, but horror elements in it for sure. So anyway, my thoughts on this one. It's not too bad for what it is. And what it is isn't necessarily a horror movie. I've reviewed other movies like this too that kind of fall under the horror realm, at least like side by side with horror. But this is definitely more of an investigative crime thriller, in my opinion, where they throw in a little humor, a little romance as filler, but try to give you a good detective story. And I think for the most part, the detective story is pretty good. So let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with the things that I liked about The Clairvoyant. It has a really effective twist reveal at the end that I didn't see coming at all. I don't know if I wasn't paying attention or what, but I thought it was very well done by just hinting at certain things of our main characters without making it overly obvious like a lot of movies do that I might have guessed a certain character that was involved in certain things. Let's just say that's revealed at the end. And yeah, so that was the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway that I had. I think the performances by the three main lead characters were all really solid. Perry King, who I know best from Class of 1984, which would come out a couple years later. He's been in other things too, TV, movies, and things throughout the years. Elizabeth Kemp, and Norman Parker, who I haven't seen him in any other movies, but I know him best as Uncle Rob from Family Ties in the 80s. He did several episodes as Steven's brother, Uncle Rob. So that's where I knew him from. And this is the first time I'd seen him in something outside of that role. So, but all three of them do a really good job here. They really sell the movie with the character portrayals that they have. And one thing that makes it interesting, these aren't just like straight line characters that don't have anything to them. For example, this cop played by, or this detective played by Larry Weeks is also like an aspiring stand-up comedian, which is kind of different. Usually cops are pretty straight-laced, or detectives in a lot of these kind of crime thriller movies. So that was kind of different. You have the artist character played by Elizabeth Kemp, who doesn't mind being flirted with, and she's not as innocent as it might appear at first. And then you have Perry King's character, who's this sort of not boisterous, but like outspoken talk show host, that's trying to get the publicity and everything, and he's got a bit of backstory to him too. So yeah, I enjoyed the acting was good, even by the side characters as well. I liked the characters. I thought that was all really well done. I also have to say the music and the score in this movie, I think, are really solid and fun, and they add a little bit of gravitas to the movie. And then also it has that 1980s New York City setting and feel to it. Like I've described in a lot of other movies. Maniac comes to mind. Early 80s New York City vibes going on. This movie has that. There's also a lot of detective crime thrillers set in New York City. So definitely not the first movie during that time period to be set there. But I do like that setting and that feel. I think it works pretty well for the movie here. I'm trying to think if there's any others that I didn't write down. Yeah, I don't know. It was a story that kind of unfolded pretty well for the most part. It's nothing overly groundbreaking or earth-shattering or anything or unique. The clairvoyant aspect of it is probably the only thing that's not grounded in this movie. Otherwise, I think they do a pretty good job of having it be a grounded movie with grounded characters while still providing a fairly entertaining experience. So let's just go ahead and get into my cons, or the things that I didn't enjoy as much about the movie. And they're not really cons, but this isn't really a horror movie. Like I said, the kills are off screen for the most part. There are about 5 or 6, but you don't really see much in terms of violence or gore on screen, which, it kind of has the feel of a made-for-TV movie a little bit because of that, but also just the camera work and the shooting of it. I wouldn't say that it's the highest of qualities, but yeah, like the kills you don't really see much. The most graphic thing in the movie is actually like a scene towards the end of the movie with our big reveal, which is like a sadomasochistic sex scene, basically, with like 3 or 4 guys and this prostitute that they handcuff, and they kind of show quite a bit there. You get full frontal nudity, not just the female either. There's a shot earlier of a guy that's full front, well, not full frontal, but mostly full frontal. So that's probably the most graphic thing about this movie, is there are some nudity scenes, but that whole scene towards the end that was kind of uncomfortable and unnerving, as these guys are basically having their way with this prostitute, like raping her and stuff like that. So, but as far as like the kills go, there's not much there. There's not really a ton of tension or build-up either. Sometimes crime thrillers, even though they're not horror movies per se, they still give you some good scenes of build-up and tension, things like that. And I didn't really get that from this one as much. Like I said, definitely more of a crime investigative thriller. Like I said, it kind of felt and looked like a made-for-TV movie at times, other than that scene at the end, of course. There's also some filler in this movie. You got some romance going on between our 3 main characters. The character of Verna is kind of being flirted with and dated both Mac and Detective Weeks, Larry Weeks, and that just kind of felt more like filler in the movie. It really didn't go anywhere, and I don't think we necessarily needed it, other than to fill out the runtime. There's some comedy club scenes, or attempts at humor between like the sergeant and the investigators and stuff, and Weeks' character. So yeah, I don't know. Some of those things just didn't work quite as well for me. But overall, for what this movie is, guys, I don't think it's that bad. I would watch it again. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's not a movie I'm necessarily going to run out and buy and add to my collection. But I definitely wouldn't turn down another watch opportunity of it either. So 7 out of 10 for the Clairvoyant, or the Killing Hour if you like. But I'm going to go with the Clairvoyant. I like that title better. But 7 out of 10 for the Clairvoyant from 1982. Go ahead and comment down below, anybody that's seen this movie, what your thoughts are on it. Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It would really help me out for the content in the future of my channel. So with all that being said, I hope you guys are enjoying this 1982 horror movie review series as part of my overall 1980s horror series. But with that being said, as always, stay scared. Bye.